The June 3rd, 2026 deadline just passed for smaller RIAs, and most firms wrote up a plan, filed it, and moved on. That's a good thing in most cases. However, writing a plan is not the same as actually being ready. Yes, they are checking for that, but in today's video, we are going to be covering what examiners actually want to see when they open up your IR binder, your incident response binder. And a little spoiler for you, it is less about the policy and more about the evidence. How are you doing? My name is Harrison Barron from Secure Wealth IT. We are a managed service provider that helps you, financial firms, to make sure that they are not only compliant, but their technology is working the way that they want. So if there is ever an SEC exam, you don't have to worry about the stress, as well as making sure that your technology works the way that you want. Bringing on an employee is super smooth, firing an employee is super smooth, making sure that your systems work the way that you want. If you'd like to learn more, you can head over to securewealthit.com. You can learn more about us, what we do, how we do it, all that good stuff, as well as check out our resources. We are constantly adding more and more resources in here for you to go grab. As you can see here, we have a handful of resources already. Or if you want to play with our finance calculator, you want it on your FMG suite, we've made a couple new updates to. We have a little bit of an advanced mode in here, so you can actually calculate your growth. 30 years old, 65 retirement, you can actually see where you hit the $1 million point. But also adding in, hey, you know what? Maybe at age 40, you add to the monthly an additional $250 per month, and you can add that life event. And, maybe there's another one. If there's another one that comes in and you can calculate that growth, and now it'll actually adjust directly in there. So you don't have to worry about, hey, something crazy had happened. There will be a major, major change. And maybe we'll see this a little bit more drastically at around 50, and maybe we'll put in there $10,000 a month. There you go. So you can see that massive change. So, hey, you know what? If you want to plan for down the road, you can do that in here as well. Just some cool stuff that we are currently working on. So let's talk about Regulation S&P. What actually is it? Why does it matter? And why is it hitting everybody? Well, back in December, they had, if you had $1.5 billion in assets or more, Regulation S&P was already taking over. Now, after the June 3rd deadline, everybody has to be in compliance with Regulation S&P. So what does it actually require? I've covered this a good bit on this channel, but you have to have an incident response program, a board or principal approval with that, saying, hey, I've given it the seal of approval. Everything actually is good. You also need to make sure that you produce the assets, the nature of the scope, and what the incident could actually be. This should all be written down somewhere to say, hey, we are prepared for this. We also want to make sure that we have controls documented for containments if there is some kind of a breach. They are very, very worried about breaches and the blowback that can happen from individuals, people that are a part of, whether it's that RIA or whomever else, making sure that people's money and investments are secure. And then also a 30-day notification for affected individuals. How does that plan on being rolled out? Is it text messages, phone calls, emails, all that good stuff, as well as service provider oversight. The 72-hour rule, making sure that if there is a breach at that provider, there is that 72-hour rule letting you know to let your potential prospects, or I shouldn't say potential prospects, your clients know, hey, this is what's going on, right? Because there's something that happened. Now, there is some gray area because they have to let you know who's actually impacted, so that way you can go report to the appropriate people and you can go through that. Record keeping that proves your program actually runs and applies to all RAs, broker-dealers, and investment companies that fall under Regulation S&P. That's what Regulation S&P actually is. I've said it so many times now at this point, it is permanently ingrained in my brain. But here's the thing, right? You have to do all of those things and make sure that they are all in working order and they can actually be carried out when the time actually comes. God forbid anything ever happens. However, during an SEC exam, the examiner is going to look for things that are slightly different than probably what you would expect, right? Because you've done everything, which is good. That is the majority of it. However, they want to make sure that you actually know what you're doing. They want to make sure that the plan exists, but not just a tabletop simulation. They want to see, hey, if this was to happen, does everybody know what's going on? There is no test, no drill. They need to know that this exists in concrete and the right people can get notified. They also don't want to see that the roles are very vague. The IT guy, right? We are the IT guy in many cases, is not a role. It is clearly designating somebody. In our world, we like to call it a SPOC, a single point of contact, making sure that, hey, there is somebody there to go potentially point the finger to and make sure that this doesn't happen. Also, vendor inventory is missing or out of date. They want to see that. Hey, what's going on? They're looking for that. They're making sure that 72-hour clause is in there on the contracts. They want to know everything that is going on. And when they go to look for it, they can see, hey, it is specifically there. Now, I know that you probably did it, but they're looking for this right off the bat. Do not give them the opportunity to go any deeper. Also, they are looking for an incident log so that the firm cannot, or they want to make sure that the firm can prove that something ever happened, as well as there has been a test with it in the past and it was logged correctly. That is going to be one of the biggest things. They want to see that, hey, we ran a simulation of, hey, this happened. We let these people know. Obviously, you're not going to be going out and telling your clients that this happened, but if it was to happen, we have an email drafted out. We've already ran it. We practiced it on this date. That is realistically what they're actually looking for. Notification templates. They want to see that it's actually filled out, not blank or copied and pasted from somebody's webinar, right? They want truly the information in there as if it was going to be going out, or a, hey, this is what we did. We ran a test on this date. This is exactly what we did throughout that. And it is logged to prove that you've actually ran it. And now, after the June 3rd deadline, is a great time to actually run that simulation. Yes, would I have preferred it be a week or two ago? Of course I would. But in today's day and age, it is important to just do it and prove that you're doing it. You don't have to do it all the time, but every once in a while is good. You want to make sure your CCO and IT provider have met before and are talking about what's going on with records. They want to see the records, not a, hey, it was done or we built it and hopefully the other people know about it. No. It has to be documented that it was talked about. Plan was written by the IT vendor and they had CCO input. It was just a message that fell on deaf ears. That is the worst possible thing. So what are the examiners actually accepting, right? They want to see a tabletop exercise. They want to see a report within the last 12 months. If it is after that 12-month period, it is okay. Still do it. The date, attendance, scenario, what failed, what got fixed. They are looking to make sure that you are doing the right thing. A true tabletop exercise. Not just, we kind of did it. No. What was the simulation that you actually ran? It doesn't have to go super, super crazy. Doing something is doing more than most people. Trust me. They want an incident log, right? Kind of what I mentioned already. Even small stuff. Phishing clicks, lost laptops, shows the process is alive and it's not theoretical. They know things happen. That's the craziest part that I think most people get wrong. They are so well aware that things actually happen. It's just a matter of logging it. They know that, hey, there is a chance that a laptop goes missing. There's a chance that a laptop went missing for a few days. It's okay to have those things. Somebody clicked on a phishing email. Preferably not, but if it was in training, hey, was it logged, right? Signed and dated incident response policy with version history. What is the last version? What did you change over time after you figured out things do and don't work? When was it last reviewed? That is super, super important. Vendor inventory tied to data sensitivity. Which vendors touch client PII, which do not. Also super important. Breach information, right? What was actually breached? Now, obviously, you're not giving out information, right? But it's still important. Hey, if this was to happen, what would actually be happening and who is responsible for these things? A communication tree with name people and name backups, similar to that SPOC. This is the person who's taking the responsibility. If this person is not in there, this is the next person taking that responsibility. Those are the things that it actually wants to see. Or I shouldn't say they want to see, right? They don't want it to just be willy-nilly and hopefully a guess. And they are looking for this. The last thing that you want is to be in the middle of an exam and they ask you to prove this. Run through it every once in a while. I promise you it is not that bad. And just log that you did it. It looks so good and you are far better than most other people. What that communication tree? Counsel, custodian, cyber insurance, IT provider, CCO, principals. Who's owning all of that? Phone numbers, what works, or what happened after hours, if there was an after hours, is it forwarded to somebody? Also, pre-approved notification letter templates, things that are actually written out. Look, you have AI. I know you use AI. This is something that AI could absolutely be used for. Just have it draft up a letter. There's no PII going into there. That is a totally safe zone that you don't have to worry about. Write it up. Use Cowork if you're really, really that worried about it. Is totally fine. But also, evidence and recurring CCO and IT manager meetings. What's happening in those meetings? What do those communications look like? The last thing that you want to do is be under the pressure of the SEC exam and have to get all of this together. Now, hopefully you're talking to your IT provider or your IT person in-house, but they have to be logged. Meeting notes, agendas, action items, what happened out of it, what changes are coming down the road. Cyber insurance policy on file with a carrier hotline written down is super important. That's probably less, hey, I need to do this right now, but it's still good to have. And then backup and recovery test results from the last 12 months. Super important. They are absolutely going to be looking for that. So where does this all happen, right? Because I've just kind of given you a ton of information. The SEC is not joking around this year. They are looking to give fines. The MSP and the CCO handoff happens. Most RIAs assume that the IT vendor owns all of the incident response. Not entirely true. While we can do a ton of it, there's still a handoff that happens. Most IT vendors assume the CCO owns it. This is where the problem happens, right? The gap is finding that middle ground, and that's what they're looking for. They are looking for that area where the MSP and the CCO are not communicating effectively, or whose roles are here and whose roles are here, and where's the middle landing. Unfortunately, if they find that, they're going to be coming after it. Once again, in previous videos, I mentioned, look, they understand that mistakes are going to happen. They want you to rectify those mistakes. So this is a great area and they will look for something, I promise you. This is a great area to have, right? That gap is where the exam findings are going to live. So what the MSP should own, right? Us, the IT person, the nerd. They should own detection, contamination, forensic support, vendor coordination, log retention, and technical evidence. The techie side of things, right? What the CCO should own. If you don't have a CCO, it is a designated person in that organization or a communication with the MSP on who can own what. Notification decisions, regulatory reporting, client communications, board updates, and policy management. I know that sounds like a lot of things, but these are things that you could write down. I will leave this in the video description so you can grab them. That is the most important thing. You want to go through, you want to run those tabletop exercises, you want to understand where the vendor risks are, you want to make sure that your annual policy review happens. That way you're never worrying about what's going on or do I have everything. It does not take that long. It's an hour here or an hour there. That's really it. If everyone knows, hey, on this Friday morning, this is what we're doing, or at Friday at 2 o'clock, this is what we're doing, and then everyone's going home at the end of the day. Make it easy for people. I promise you, it's not that bad. Let me tell you a quick story, right? Small RIA, 8 staff, 1 phishing email gets clicked. Hour 1, MSP isolates that mailbox immediately, right? Pulls the logs, opens up the incident response runbook, which also the RIA should also be opening up their incident response runbook as well. Hour 4, CCO is on call with the counsel and the cyber carrier, right? This could be a real thing. This is what's going to happen. Day 1, scope is defined, no client data accessed, decision or discussion logged, right? If it was a decision on, hey, are we going to log it, not log it? Hopefully it's logged, and there's a discussion around that. Day 2, vendor notification sent to custodian in under 72-hour clause, right? Because you have to let your custodian know also, hey, there was an issue going on. Day 3, internal post-mortem, right? Incident logs, updated, tabletop scheduled. And then at the end of the whole thing, the process is real. I know it sounds crazy in what I just covered. It's a 3-day event. In your tabletop exercise, this could happen in like an hour. But you have to do it and you have to log it. If you're not doing that, the only person that you're harming is yourself and your RIA. And that's the last thing that you want to deal with. It is not that bad. Prove that you've done it, log it, and in the scenario, what actually happened. If it's all there, Follow the process. I promise you, it is not that bad. If you want to learn more about us, you can head over to securewealthit.com. Check it out. We also have tons of stuff on our website that you can go grab. If you want to grab resources, there is some stuff in here about the SEC deadline, the evidence vault kit, if you want to go grab that. And we are constantly working on new stuff. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to check it out. Other than that, I wasn't sharing my screen here, but leave a comment down below. Would love to hear your feedback on it. Hopefully this video earned a like, a subscribe, and a notification bell. And I will see you guys on the next one.